everyone, welcome back. It's Sailor Moon. Just kidding, it's Maria. So why am I dressed like this, you might ask? What's happening? Is this a book channel? Is this a cosplay channel? Why not do both? What book do you think I read that created this look? That I was like, I read this book. It only is fitting that I'm gonna wear this. Go ahead, I'll wait. If you said Daughter of the Moon Goddess, girl, you're right. I'm sorry. Like, I saw this book and I instantly was like, Sailor Moon. Why? I have a confession. Anything Sailor Moon is like a guilty pleasure of mine. And I'm not even going to say it's a guilty pleasure. I just enjoy it. And I will tell anyone at any time that that's a pleasure because I freaking love her. As a kid, I watched all of the TV episodes, like the dubbed version. I had all of the mangas. So like when they diverged in like what was happening in the comic books and the mangas was not what was happening on the TV show, I was stunned as a child. I was stunned, but I digress. I had like Sailor Moon posters, playing cards, like I was in it to win it. And I feel like all my friends were too. So anything that is like moon related is really near and dear to my heart just because of Sailor Moon. I think she sparked the love for the moon for me. And so I was like, look, when do you get to dress up as Sailor Moon? Honestly, not often enough. So here I am to you reviewing Daughter of the Moon Goddess as the Princess of the Moon herself, Princess Serenity, or as we like to call her, Usagi. So let's get into it. So I was gonna make this a 5-minute video, but I don't think I really honestly doubt it's gonna be 5 minutes. The Daughter of the Moon Goddess is by Lynn Tan, and it is based off of, I believe it's Chinese mythology. And if you didn't know and why, you're like, why do you think that that's the same thing as Sailor Moon? It's an anime from Japan. Totally get that. But if you look up Sailor Moon, a lot of the influences in that like comic book and in that novel come from like some Greek mythology, also Chinese mythology, as well as Japanese mythology. So it all makes sense because if you look at those mythologies, it's always a moon goddess or princess who's like falling in love with like a mortal on Earth, whether that's like, you know, the Earth King, Mamoru, Prince Eden, whoever it is, like Hui in this book, there's always like a mortal Earth person and then like the person on the moon. So what's different about this book though, is that when we're looking at the moon goddess, her ascent to becoming the moon goddess is actually very specific. So in this mythology, in the Chinese mythology, chang'e was, caveat here, I might be saying, and I'm aware, I might be saying these names wrong. I tried really, really hard to look up pronunciations for them. But I'm gonna try really, really hard. I know it's not chang'e, so I'm trying to like be really, really diligent about my pronunciation, so don't come for me. Chang'e was a mortal who had a mortal husband who did this magnificent feat to, you know, save the world. And then he was gifted an elixir of immortality from the Celestial Kingdom. And like anytime we talk about the Celestial Kingdom, I'm like, yes, Sailor Moon, hello, the Silver Millennium Palace, come on. He was gifted an elixir and he didn't want to take it because he didn't want to be without his wife chang'e. And so through a whole bunch of stuff that happened, she had a really hard pregnancy. So for her, in this book, I don't know if this actually follows directly what it is in Chinese mythology because I saw a few different versions of it. But in this book, to save her and her daughter from dying in stillbirth, she took the elixir of life. Let's be real. Yes, she was trying to save her daughter, but also she tried to save herself. So she is punished because they think that she stole this elixir of life. And honestly, the Celestial Emperor and Empress are dicks and no one likes them. So hello, call out to them. We hate you. They then banish her to be alone on the moon and she can never leave. So she raises her daughter there in secret with her assistant Pinga. And one day, you know, something happens with our main character. So this is where we diverge. So we kind of get that backstory in the first like chapter or so, but then we actually the focus isn't on that particular instance, right? That just kind of is woven in, so that way we can understand where the Daughter of the Moon Goddess is coming from. And that is chang'e, And she is, as you can tell, the daughter of the moon goddess. She was raised on the moon by her mom. She has no idea who her father is. She's just kind of being raised in this, like, you know, beautiful, serene palace with no real idea of the outside world. And she doesn't really ask a lot of questions. She, you know, she's just happy to be there with her mom. And then one day, you know, her power kind of starts to grow inside of her, and she reaches for it, and lo and behold, it creates a whole thing. And the celestial empress visits her mom and is like, well, what's going on here? We felt this like surge of power. And her mom's like, Chang'e, hide in your room. Don't make eye contact with her. And from that point forward, her mom is like, we have to get you out of here. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be here. They're going to come back. The empress has warned me. They're going to come back. And the empress, let me tell you, has no love lost between her and the moon goddess. So that embarks on the whole adventure that Chang'e goes on as she's like, tries to escape the moon, how she, you know, that escape is kind of botched, and she kind of falls into this area where she's got to like learn how to make a life for herself, and how these like events kind of lead to her being the companion of the prince, the celestial prince, Lin. And I think that's where this book has some issues. Like, I gave this book a solid 4.5 stars just because there's just some pacing issues. I just think that it started off with a bang and then it lulled for a little bit, so much so that I wasn't sure that I was going to continue reading it. But luckily for me, I stuck it out, and then, you know, it picked back up again. The thing is, I think I found out and realized that the writing style of this author is very lyrical. Everything is very beautiful. It's very poetic. There's a lot of descriptions, right? And if you know me, I don't need all the descriptions. I don't need to know all of that. But I think the beauty in like Chinese mythology, in Asian culture, it is the intricacies and the beautiful storytelling and that kind of narrative piece. So I felt like it made sense in this book. And so it really lent to some of that richness of the character and the culture, and, you know, what really creating that world and building that world so that it wasn't just like any other kind of fae world that you've seen built. And so I really like that. And then as we progress, you kind of, you know, get through this, as you're going through this book, you know, it really is an ode to her mom and how much she loves, you know, her mother, and how she wants to save her mother from imprisonment on the moon, because that's what her mom wants, is like just to be able to leave the moon. And because she's banished, you know, she can't. And so she doesn't know if her lover, her husband, is dead or alive. And so this book really is like a coming of age story with Chang'e, and how she goes from this like scared girl who doesn't know how to say boo to anyone, who's never really experienced the world, who is shy. And so she kind of just like starts from the bottom and scratches her way up, and learns how to be bold and clever and use some of her, you know, not deceit, but some of her guiles to like really get to where she needs to go, and really build friendships along the way. Because, you know, she's not allowed to tell anyone who she is, who her mom is, because one, that will probably like kill her or kill her mom. And so she has to keep that secret. So everyone thinks that she's a nobody, she has no class, like she doesn't belong, and so she has to fight for everything that she gets. And I really like that, you know, in a story. I think, like I said, it's just some of the pacing is just really hard. And the first third is kind of like, you know, she's there's a lot of world building happening. So you're like kind of getting through that. You're seeing her relationship with the prince. Like, of course, they're like best friends, and we all know what that usually leads to in these books. And then like decisions that she makes where she ends up like, you know, in the army, the celestial army, and she's fighting people, and there's a lot of stuff happening, right? Because she's trying to get this talisman that will allow her to ask the emperor to like do anything. And so we see her go through this like huge growth curve, this growth arc. I will say, if you're not really into there's a lot of like teenage angsty love kind of in this, you know, and it's a good portion of the book really is dedicated to that. So if that's not something you're interested in, you might not be super enthralled in this book, especially because it's like a first love kind of stuff and learning to find your voice in a relationship and stand up for yourself and that first heartbreak, and how deeply you feel it. And I think Su Lin did a phenomenal job in like expressing that. And because of her writing style, you really feel the emotions that Chang'e is going through and how deeply she feels everything that happens to her. And I don't know, actually I really enjoy it. I'm really excited for the second book to come out because it is a duology. But yeah, pick it up. I think you'll really like it. And now I'm going to take you on a little ride and we're going to go talk some spoilers. So if you're not into spoilers, then I guess you can't come to the Moon Kingdom with me. But if you are, we are going to head there. Welcome to the Moon Kingdom, friends. So now we could talk about spoilers in peace. Shh. So I just want to talk about, honestly, the love triangle. What is happening? Okay, so we have Xinyin. She's out here being her badass self. And then she's got Li Wei and Wenjia being just, honestly, the worst. Okay, so like Li Wei, whatever, I guess she's going to give him some credit because he's like a prince or whatever. So he has to marry the girl even though he doesn't love her. But then he like continues to follow her around and like pine after her. And I'm just like, okay. Let's move on. Thank you. Next. Like, not about it. And then she meets, you know, Wen over here, Mr. Wenjia, and he seems like he's going to be, you know, so good for her. They're like compatible where he's like, you know, allows her to be her badass self where she can go fight people. They fight side by side. He like helps her grow. They're like hanging out together. And then, you know, obviously they fall in love, even though she's kind of still into Lily over there, like really trying to like distance herself from him. And then he's got to go and be bad. Like, I'm like shocked. So he literally is like, I'm gonna be the demon king now, or the demon prince, and I need you to respect that, right? And so she's obviously like upset about it because he's like lied to her this whole time. Then he like kidnaps her and binds her magic, and you know, I would be upset about that too. And then expects her to still love him. But I guess here's the thing, hear me out. She doesn't like the celestial kingdom. Really, she doesn't like the emperor. She doesn't like the emperor. She really doesn't like anything about it. And if I remember correctly, it was like the reason that the demon realm is because they were misusing magic or whatever, which like I get. And how you get the girl is not by kidnapping her, obviously. But I mean, I don't know. I was really rooting for him. Wen had like all the things that I wanted for her, even though, you know what, in the beginning when she first met him, he's kind of a dick. So I mean, we should have all seen that from the beginning. I feel so bad though. So like, if you really want to feel the heartache, you know, follow Shinji around. She is like out here breaking all these hearts. There's even like the prince over in the Eastern Sea. He's like all into her. It's like, for someone who had no confidence before, she's now like the toast of the town, right? I don't know. And then my question is, we're like talking about the dragons, right? I just feel like that was all so easy. Shouldn't it have been harder? Like, no one can get the dragon pearls. I mean, I guess cool because she like got the jade bow. So we're like, what's going on with the jade bow? Who wielded it before her? Who is this like mysterious archer? Was it actually her father? We don't know because we don't have the lore. We're like waiting for like the second book to figure that out. But then she gets the pearls, right? And so she's like, oh, what do I do? Do I sacrifice the dragons? Which folks, she thought maybe she would sacrifice the dragons. But you know what? She came to her senses and was like, no, we can't do that. She collects these pearls, and that's when Wen over here is like, let me steal you away. But the thing is, like, does no one even think about the dragons? Everyone just wants to use the dragons. Like, they're gonna die, friends. They are going to die if you literally force them to fight each other. Like, why don't we just use them for their knowledge? Why do people gotta be so horrible all the time? We gotta, like, kill everything. And these are immortal beings. They're not even mortals. Like, I guess they have more time on their hands and they don't care. But, like, think about the consequences, maybe? And even when she's, like, explaining this to people, they're like, oh, no, it's a means to an end. And to be fair, she kind of was going along that path too. But for like Wenjia to like be like, you're the same, not quiet. She did do some lying. Everyone did do some lying. But at least she was like, didn't necessarily compromise her integrity because she wasn't gonna like force the dragons to, fight anyone. And then, we go into the whole battle and it's over pretty quickly. And it just is kind of convenient. She like finds the star lily, she grinds them up, she like puts Wen to sleep, and then you got his brother coming in trying to like do God knows what to her, and then she just somehow gets all of the miraculous power to like defeat him, which good on you. Good on you, girl. And then she gets out and then she's like flies to the Eastern Sea, and they're like, hey, how do I break the dragons out of the pearls? And I'm gonna trick the emperor. Okay, then they go. Takes half her life force like it's nothing. And then I was confused because they're like, Lee, you can't help her in this. But then he like grabs her hand and there's like a power exchange there. So he kind of did, and she didn't die. So they fly back, they have the pearls, and it's this whole thing. And then she almost dies. So like she gives half of her life force away. The emperor, obviously, because he's a raging dick, is like, I hate you. Let me try and electrocute you to death. No one can save her except for the army, who now like obviously loves her because she's got her friend over there who like was like, bring in the troops. And then they're like, oh yeah, we love you now. Even though like literally 20 pages before we thought you were a traitor. Just kidding. You're on our side, care about you. And then, suddenly she's like free to go, goes to the Moon Kingdom, her little moon home. And there it's like, oh, the moon has mysterious healing properties. I mean, that's kind of nice, I guess. You just like lost half your life force, but you know what? It's going to come back. It's going to come back quicker because I'm on the moon. She sees Pinga and Chang'e, her mom, and they're like all happy. And she's just like living out there on the moon. And then Wen comes to her in a dream. And she's like, oh, it was just a dream. But we all know he was there for real. And he's like, ma'am, had we been on the precipice of like life or death, would you have shot me and actually killed me? And this girl's like, no, I would not. And he's like, oh, so you're saying there's a chance. Wen, no, there's not a chance. But you know what? Clearly there is. And I think we're going to have a Tamlin Reese situation with Feyre. And we're going to see, I think, you know what? My prediction is she goes with Wen. I'm sorry, Lee. Like, Xinyan loves you as a friend. But if you've ever heard that Taylor Swift song where she's like, I miss screaming and fighting in the rain, even though she's got a perfectly good man there who is like her best friend, she still wants to go with like the other toxic man who's like out here trying to like ruin her life. But Reese did the same thing to Feyre. He put her in dangerous situations. He didn't tell her the truth all the time. And that's who she went with, right? I mean, Tamlin kind of sucked, but like she really didn't have that many great options. But like, these girls out here, you don't need a man. Just be on your own. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. Since I am in the Moon Kingdom, I thought you and I could just have that conversation, just us, because there was so much in that book that happened. And then the ending, I'm like, what, who, what's going to happen next? Like, where are you going? What's happening? So I'm glad I could talk about it with you. Tell me, are you Team Wen or Team Lee? Let me know. Or are you just Team Xinyan? Like, girl, you are a brave, badass mother warrior. You don't need any of these dudes. You got the jade bow. You got a dragon scale that'll call any dragon to you. Why are we hanging out with these trifling men? Okay, throw them all away. Throw them all away. They don't deserve you. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for standing here and hanging out with me as we talk about spoilers, because I just had to get that off my chest. Like, what is going on? In the name of the moon, we won't punish you. Well, maybe if it's the Demon King. I don't know. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!